every 2 weeks, I got a classical, musician, string player, violinist, or coming to me, a friend, and saying, "Oh man,
Yeah.
I wish I could
Yeah.
improvise. Please
Yeah.
show me this. Please show me
Yeah.
that. I can't do this anymore. I need something else." And I've met, tens of classical like people playing in the orchestra, and they can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Some of them, they just suffer because they feel they're not, self-expressed. They're not being creative. So I think that if these people all went through this kind of education, when you also learn to do all these other things, play by ear, play the music you want, basically. If these people had this, they would be, more happy doing what they're doing, and they do it better,
Yeah.
therefore. So I think it's actually,
It creates much more well-rounded
yeah,
musicians, eh?
yeah, yeah.
Just the
And also
ability
on
to
the long
jam.
term, on the
Mm.
long term, because when you're fresh, when you're 20 years old, you can do anything you want, and you can just go, 200% and do this. But then 20 years after, what's going to happen to you,
Hmm. Yeah.
And I've seen so many, like young geniuses
Hmm.
burnouts and stop playing music at
Yeah.
all.
Same. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
heartbreaking. I mean, and I'm sure that, doing all, well, you see what I mean.
You know, I actually saw what's the band called, um the youth band that you run.
Any strings
Yeah, I
or
saw. I actually saw you play. You weren't there, but I was walking past a big cathedral in Krakow just on holiday because I've got Polish family.
are you serious,
Serious,
man?
yeah. And I
That's
saw your name
crazy.
out. I saw the thing with like violins on it outside, and there's a lady
Oh,
outside who I think
yeah,
is who I think
yeah,
is actually the lady you're talking about.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I
I
saw your
wasn't
name on
there.
it, and I was
I
like,
Yeah,
ah,
but
it's
I
that
was.
guy.
Yeah, that's
So we
that's
went in and
amazing,
watched it.
man. Yeah, I wasn't there because I couldn't do this tour with because I was touring with Red Sun at that time.
Yes.
But that's the thing. Yeah, that's so
It
funny,
was
man.
great. It was
Yeah,
wicked. They played some klezmer tunes,
yeah.
and they had
I mean,
hats on,
yeah,
and they were
exactly.
just like
Yeah,
having a great time in this
that's the
big cathedral.
yeah,
And it
that's the
sounded
thing.
amazing.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
sounded
I mean, they
amazing.
were having a great time, and that's the single most important thing,
Yeah.
for these kids. Just the fact that they're having
Mhm.
so much fun with their violin
Yeah.
on stage, and this just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what? Like when I was a kid, I went to the school orchestras, and
yeah,
I was really rubbish at that. I was really bad at reading, and I think it was because my school wasn't a very musical school. Other reasons, but my school wasn't a very musical school. There was no community of
yep, yeah,
of kids who did music that I wanted to do, or even kids who were excited about classical music. There was no community. There was like maybe little factions of people, but there was no like bunch of musicians.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the only time I got to see a little community of musicians, like kids my age, was when I went to the Edinburgh Schools Orchestra, secondary schools orchestra, and everyone was already friends, and everyone was already just like a little bit better than me. I was always sort of the best one in my school,
yep,
and then but the then I got there and I was like, I was super not, and but they're all in their little community already, and I was like, I'm not part of this. This doesn't speak to me, and everyone's reading better than me. I just didn't think, hey, why don't you practice reading so you get better? And then I didn't think. I was like, this is rubbish. I don't even know why I'm here. And if there was something like
yeah,
mini strings where someone would, you know, because I loved improvising. I play,
yeah, yeah. All kids do. I mean, Jesus Christ, all every single child can improvise.
yeah, yeah,
And it's also okay, in the defense of, conservatories and music school. I feel like nowadays, like, improvising in string teaching is like totally mainstream. Like,
yes,
everybody does some improvising, which is fantastic. However, think that at some point, like, and this is like when they are like when the teenagers start working on, concertos and like serious repertoire,
Mm-hmm.
this improvisation thing fades away and it's
Mm.
not part of the curriculum
Yeah.
anymore, which makes sense because you improvise with the tools that you have.
Yeah.
You can't improvise with tools you don't have. and and when you're like uh, playing like pizzicato on open strings, you can improvise with that. But
Mm-hmm.
then when you start uh, learning a serious tune which is built on chords and a
Mm-hmm.
tonality and a particular rhythm or style, then if you don't have these elements shown to you, explained to you, then you can't improvise, you know,
Yeah.
over them. So it makes sense that when the I mean, this could explain why when you start doing serious stuff, repertoire, you stop improvising, and then people get ashamed, you know,
Mm.
because they know that when they're improvising, it's not good.
Yeah.
People can feel that,
Mm-hmm.
because they are very advanced musicians, and it makes them miserable. So they avoid that.
Yeah.
And when you meet them and you're like, hey, okay, let's just chill, let's just jam, let's just play this one groove and just have fun. They like, I mean, they don't cry, but either they love it out or they're like feel ashamed and they're
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and it's a lot of suffering.
Yeah. I know.
I mean,
I know.
same thing when I suddenly have to play, in an orchestra, and I've got to play these very high notes with the
Yeah.
right vibrato and the right sound. I'm crying too,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Same.
I know all the things that I'm doing wrong, but it's fine because we're all working. But
Yeah. 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 Yeah, man. What's going on with you at the moment? What are you doing?